Planet Zoo is Frontier Development's best game, period. It did outperform not only all the other Planet games, but also the big IP-based Jurassic World Evolution. All that done being released solely on PC, at least for the first years. That in contrast to all the other games and recent Planet Coaster 2 being released on console right away and many more launchers than just Steam. So in this video we are going to have a look why Planet Zoo is such a big hit and why Planet Zoo 2 is going to be one of the most important things in the history of Frontier developments. Just to be clear what I mean by the most successful one. Apparently it hasn't outsold the Jurassic games at the beginning, but over the accumulated time, over all these years, including all the DLCs, Planet Zoo has brought in the biggest cash flow for Frontier developments. You can see that in virtually any of their annual reports, and specifically recently the player numbers on Steam show horrifically how Planet Zoo still has the same amount of active players, even compared to Jurassic World Evolution 3 and Planet Coaster 2, who have both been released in the last 14 months, while Planet Zoo is being released many years ago. It just goes to show how strong this IP and the fanbase and also the interest in zoo games is. You just gotta have to look at that. Frontier Developments just kind of made a very nice hit with Planet Coaster back in 2016, where they brought the legacy of Roller Coaster Tycoon over to Frontier with the Planet Legacy start. Now, years later, 3 years to be precise, they did the same thing to the Zoo Tycoon kind of era and brought that over to Planet Zoo. And it just turned out that the zoo fans seemingly being the biggest of the interest groups out there, and also Planet Zoo being the most reliable and bestest game out there, despite the beginning of the game, was just kind of many people do forget, has been also pretty rough. So let's look into that one. Now, Planet Zoo started off very roughly. The franchise mode, which was one of the big selling points of the game, was really rough at the beginning. It's been having a couple of hiccups to the point that even in the beta phase they kind of delayed the franchise by a bit because they needed to kind of fix that first, and also in the weeks after it's having had a lot of kind of server issues and all kind of other stuff. Despite that, the game was received very well because of all the innovation it brought in. To break it down, the game did not only excel in the display of animals, apparently these have been the most beautiful animals ever been done for a zoo game, but also with the freedom of building the habitats and also with the graphics. The graphics itself were a huge leap forward from the Planet Coaster game. I'll get to that in a minute, but first of all, let's quickly talk about the biggest thing they brought in, and that has to do with the navigation system of the animals, or better called the locomotion system. To be precise, what that is, the locomotion system is a system where animals actively find their way through the habitat. It just kind of creates that traversable area that you can display with a kind of blue overlay, so you always have an idea where your animals can traverse or why not. This all depends on the size, on the weight, and all the ability to go inclines or even climb or swim, which is pretty damn heavy when it comes to programming, and it's been shockingly free. You could do literally everything in the game what you intended to do with all the pieces, but this meant the habitats were completely dynamic, and as soon as you did change something in your habitat, the animal would actually change its traversable area, hence the locomotion system was going to search for some new stuff. I actually made a huge video on that alone to explain how locomotion and motion in general with the animals works in the game, which also wasn't a perfect system, but it was so much better than anything we had prior to this game that the kind of replayability of this game was going to the moon, because you could even try and build the same habitat for the same animal 20 times over and over, and it would always be a new challenge due to the fact that whatever kind of size or shape or idea you had for the habitat would create a new challenge in which way you can create and address the traversable area. So this type of freedom was an entirely new way of building habitats. Compare that to the 2013 Zoo Tycoon, where you essentially just plop down buildings and houses and shapes, and that was the habitat, which got super repetitive in no time. I mean, fine, you could play a keeper, but other than that, this didn't brought you back for much. I mean, for how many times did you want to water an elephant or just, whatever, rub an animal to make it clean? Just that, you do that a couple times and it's wearing off super quickly. Not with Planet Zoo. You could literally do so many times, the same habitat, the same idea, and it was always going to be different. That was a huge thing for the industry, but also a huge thing for the players. Now, next up is the graphics. The graphics are phenomenal and they keep up very well to date. They also brought in the first full weather simulation into the Planet games and also into the creative simulation games of Frontier, because none of the games till this date did even include snow. Now, I'm kind of annoyed over here sitting because I have to say it is still the best weather Frontier has done in any of their games to date. That includes Jurassic World Evolution 3 and Planet Coaster 2, including the latest weather revamp. I am just blown away by the amount of detail that went into the simulation of weather and how insanely great the game looks. And I think this is partly the reason why Planet Coaster 2 wasn't received too positively on the graphic side of things. In detail, and when you look at things like, you know, sharpness of textures and blah blah blah, Planet Coaster 2 is actually way better, but not as much as Planet Zoo has been better compared to Planet Coaster 1. I could go way more into detail why that is. It's mean, you know, it was a generational leap in many kind of technology things in the engine, which you didn't have right now in the next step. So there is a reason why the step wasn't as big, despite the gap in years was even double the amount. It's not always that easy. However, let's keep it simple and say the game's graphic aged really well. I remember playing Planet Coaster, switching over to Planet Zoo, and my biggest problem going back to Planet Coaster was not the fact that the game was bad, it was the fact that the graphics was so much worse than Planet Zoo's was. And just for my eyes, that was a treat to go back to Planet Zoo, which made me play Planet Zoo so much more. And again, still to date, this game looks phenomenal. But graphics alone don't make a great game, and they also don't make animals look great from the beginning. So Frontier has done some of the most amazing animals you can have in any game out there. The roster of animals also became super big, over 200 animals in the game, and most of them, I say most of them, have been done phenomenally great. You can really tell the transition from the beginning to the end, how much they improved in their ability to make great animals, specifically when it comes to big cats. The big cats in the base game are kind of meh, but the big cats that were introduced into the game later on as free animals and DLC animals, saying just like the Amur leopard or the lynx, have been absolutely incredible, and it almost looks like as if these animals were already from a second game opposed to from the first game, which, rumor has it, maybe we've seen one or two that has already been planned for a new game. Who knows? But the amount of work they put into using the shader correctly, into making the movement better and making the look of the animals better is fantastic. And also, they have brought in a whole bunch more animations, even after years of development. Even when we all thought they would not bring anything more into the game, they just occasionally drop variation to big monkeys and apes, you know. That was very shocking to see. And even they added this back to the orangutan even, which was a base game animal, which shows that Frontier again showed how much they are willing to improve the game over time. And especially this game received so many things, which leads me to my next point. I said that replayability was also granted by, you know, having the ability to make dynamic habitats due to all the in-game capabilities. However, there is another thing. They had so many DLCs and so many free updates over the course of time, more than 15 at this point, which also, these free updates, most of them, if not all, were actually pretty substantial. We received souvenir shops along the way, we received a lot of petting zoo mechanics, we received walkable habitats, we received the big exhibits, and so on, walkthrough exhibits, and so on. There's like so many things that they brought into the game as base game content, because they brought all these kind of functionalities, including deep diving, into the base game, which hasn't been in the game at the start, but now is in the game. So they made Planet Zoo a very complete game. And if you remember, the latest DLC isn't even that far away, and now the announcement of Planet Zoo shows that there's only a gap of a year and a bit between the last DLC for the first game and the release of the second game, which is just a testament to how well this game actually works for the company, but also for the people. Now, there's a couple more things I quickly want to go touch upon, because I think they are so important to understand why Planet Zoo is such a big thing. If you have played Planet Coaster before, you know that the game at times had been a little bit limited in performance, specifically when you went into bigger parks or more guests in your park. That was not really that big of an issue with Planet Zoo. If you look at Koali Zoo, for example, the big project that I was running together with a couple of creators, you see how ginormous that park ended up being. And yes, the performance isn't as great at the end, but it was bearable, it was playable, and there's no way you could imagine that. If you compare that to Koali Beach, a far smaller theme park we created in a group, we ended this project because of the performance not holding up anymore, and it was a relatively small park, so the performance increase was definitely a mega important bit to why that game was super well received and works pretty flawlessly on most of the machines. But that also brings me to a vital point, and I know that this is gonna end up a little bit being on the controversial side of things, but I personally have my opinion on that, so let's talk about it. A part of why this game was so successful is that it has been developed for computer only. The main game has been done on PC, the UI has been developed for a PC game, and they took the great fundament, the great foundation of Planet Coaster, the PC version, and they developed an even better game, a way better game in the same universe, and created the perfect idea of what the Planet games are. They created this with the intention to create a great PC game, and you could feel that. And all the technical issues apart from like the first month in franchise mode, which in management and stuff like that, the typical kind of Frontier thing, these things were not down to the engine. These were like other related things to like hardware for the servers and blah blah blah, but the game itself was so well done for PC and just shows how really strong it worked over all these years. And yes, it is a Planet game, and I know that there's still a lot of bugs in. The problem with the Planet games will always remain that this is a super individual game. The bugs I experience may not be the ones you have, and this is what makes Frontier also, which makes it so hard for them to fix them all, because they're so individual, which I guess goes down to the way how this game is built. But yeah, there is a lot more I could talk about, but these are some of the main points showing why this game is so great. But there are obviously some flaws. I don't want to talk about the flaws now, because we will talk about Planet Zoo 2 as well in this video, before we have to talk about this ominous kind of survey that is along the way, and obviously the announcement and the timing of the announcement of Planet Zoo 2. So let's quickly talk about the timing and then the survey, and then we're going to talk about Planet Zoo 2 and why that is such a big deal. Now, Planet Zoo 2 has been very, very weirdly announced just to the anniversary, the 6th anniversary of Planet Zoo, without informing anyone beforehand, nor the creators, nor the press, nor anyone. It's just been released as a weird way of ending the anniversary teaser in which we've been in, and alongside that on a forum post where they officially confirmed it. No big thing, no teaser, no nothing. It's been even different to Jurassic World Evolution 3, where they just confirmed at some point that they're working on Jurassic World Evolution 3, but they did that on a stakeholder kind of event, and that was a bit of a bigger thing, and press was also informed, so the press just hooked up to that a minute later. And with Planet Zoo, you could really see the press just jumped on that a day later, or maybe later that day. So it was rather shocking for anyone, and that brought me thinking, because that was after all the things that they have done for Planet Coaster 2, including the first big DLC, and this is what got me thinking, alongside the launch of Jurassic World Evolution 3, by the way. So two big stances they had in the industry, with the first paid DLC for Planet Coaster 2 that they have been fixing for a year, and the release of a brand new game being Jurassic World Evolution 3, which was arguably the biggest step in the Jurassic World Evolution franchise. However, both of these things seemingly haven't hit as they've expected. That's not saying they've been, performing poor. I think Jurassic World Evolution 3 is doing fine, but it's not doing amazing. And Planet Coaster 2 is doing, well, it's not doing that great, despite the fact the game is pretty great at this time. Or I'm not saying great, but it's much better, and it would deserve a lot more love from the community, from people trying it out. The game is now at a state where I say it is the best Planet game of all the Planet games available, even better than Planet Zoo, but you gotta have to try it first. Now, I don't want to talk about Planet Coaster 2 here. I just want to say that despite the fact they have put a lot of effort in making sure that people have great games to play with, they seemingly felt the urge to spark some interest in the Planet franchise. And saying they're working on a sequel for Planet Zoo 2 will maybe bring people play even more Planet Zoo for now. Again, the game is very well performing. Maybe you grab that in a sale or whatnot and you just keep playing to be ready for a sequel next year. But also to put a bit more spotlight on Frontier again, because, and this brings me back to the beginning of the video, it seems that the Zoo fans are the biggest group of interest for Planet Zoo game or also for Frontier right now, which means they want to, you know, get in all that audience now to be aware of what Frontier is doing, which shows the importance of Planet Zoo 2, which then brings me now to the survey that has been published a couple days ago. That survey was released on SurveyMonkey, and Frontier shared that via all their channels. And to just cover it briefly, I'm not going to go through that survey now, I just did that way at the beginning, and the survey just really wants to know what is the most important thing from you guys that you want to know. And the thing is, or want to have, I should say, the thing is they intentionally made it in a way that you have to decide between two things that 100% you want both of them. So they did do kind of a split section where you had on the one hand the most important one and the other hand the least important one, and you always got like 4 or 5 items. That being said, they obviously also had birds and birds and aquatics in the same category, so you had to decide what is more important for you, birds or aquatics. But as they did this a couple of times, you could, in a way, still make it the most important of all of the items, because they basically had all items run against each other once at least. So they then have an idea of a list of important things. And honestly, people got to me and they were like, oh my god, I'm worried, maybe they're not doing both of it. And our friend Eben, he had a very good point when we were talking in our Discord group. He said, like, and I think he meant that in a different way, but he said, like, he's worried that to why they're just doing that 1 year before release. And I guess, and this is the point, there's no way they're just doing one of the two or whatever. I think at this point they have pretty much outlined what the game is going to feature, but I think going to launch they have a couple of things to make sure what is fleshed out correctly and what they could maybe delay to the first bigger update. So I'm assuming that birds and aquatics, specifically after this survey, they are most likely confirmed, because you wouldn't put them so prominently into a survey. But there were some other really cool things already in that survey. They kind of covered this by the idea of saying, hey, these are the biggest community wishes. But I mean, come on, would you ask for all these things if you weren't to think about integrating them? So, for example, a zookeeper mode and staff vehicles, two of my biggest wishes as well, were kind of part of these items, which is pretty cool. But just to not go too much into that, because we're going to talk about Planet Zoo 2 in a second, I think the survey goes to show that they learned from the mistakes they did with Planet Coaster 2 and also with maybe Jurassic World Evolution 3 as well. This goes specifically into that kind of, I don't want to call it disaster, it was like a little bit of a louder part of the community complaining about why not all species from Jurassic World Evolution 2 were for free in Jurassic World Evolution 3, and they were worrying that like the same kind of species come back as a DLC item again, so they didn't want to rebuy DLCs. I guess that is obviously what we all don't want to have, and then Frontier did communicate that they are going to bring all the base game animals back into the game along the full year of 2026, so that is a great thing to do. You could have avoided all that shenanigans by just talking about that earlier, I guess, but seeing this survey doesn't make me worried the slightest about features missing or them not being on track. They may actually have brought the game 1 year earlier than they planned. This is still a thing I would love to debate at a later stage maybe, but I think they know very well now that they have to nail the game as this is, and I explained that very detailed in this video. They have to nail it as it is their biggest stance in the industry, in the niche they are working on, and also the audience is the biggest and the most willing to pay for good DLCs over a long time. So they know what they're doing, and I guess at this point they will just want to make sure that whatever they do, it's going to hit perfectly with the community and those things they really wanted, opposed to what they maybe think they wanted. And this is a big difference, So let's leave that survey for a moment and talk about Planet Zoo 2. Some of the things I think are very important, and I will make a dedicated video on my top 5 features I want to have in the game, so I'm gonna spare them out in here. I'm not gonna spare them out, but I'm not gonna talk about what exactly is the most important, but you know, let's just quickly talk about that. Planet Zoo has been a surprise for me personally, in the way that I didn't think I was going to play this game that much. I would consider myself still to be way more of a coaster person, a theme park person, but having 2 kids now, situation changed a little bit. My interest may still be with the theme parks, but my love for zoos has grown over the years, and my research into the zoos, you know, to which I can go, or do I go to zoos in general or whatnot, this has definitely changed my perspective on that, and hence I grew to love Planet Zoo a lot more than I initially thought, and it's been a fantastic couple thousand hours I've spent into that game. And, you know, truthfully, this has been the main reason why my channel is here. Over 100,000 subscribers on the channel is a big part of that goes down to Planet Zoo. Let's not be real. Let's not forget about that. That's just how it is. Planet Zoo 2 is not only for me a big hope. I really do hope that this game is gonna, you know, catapult this channel even further into higher sub counts, higher views, whatnot. I'm gonna openly admit this is something I'm hoping. But also, at the same time, I am absolutely wishing Frontier all the best, that they do deliver a complete hit here. I want this studio to be successful. I wish them all the success now. I've had a hard time with them over the last couple of years. You know that. I've been negative to parts that have been called the biggest negative in the community, and then I've also been called the biggest bootlicker in the community. You never know, but still, at the end of the day, I think the people at Frontier have shown now, after they also had to find themselves again, and that is not a big secret anymore, they deserve, with all the passion they put into their games, I really wish them to finally nail a game again, as they nailed Planet Zoo back in the day. I want it to be the significant, the crazy follow-up game. And you know what? I would even be okay to have another shocking leap in graphics compared to Planet Coaster 2. I know it will hurt my heart, and it will make me worried to what is going to happen to Planet Zoo 2 then, if Planet Coaster 2 then, if that's the thing. But I'm wishing this for Frontier. I really hope this game is going to fulfill all the things we all want. I really hope this game is going to show us a version 2 of this locomotion system that Frontier has established in the industry. I wish this system is going to be crushingly better and less glitchy, and just shows their vision they had apparently for the first game now actually going to work in Planet Zoo 2. I hope they have another huge improvement in the shaders to make animals look even greater and even better. I hope they will bring in all the stuff they learned from the first game, including brachiation and some wonderful kind of family interactions and animations into the game, and just build upon that and make it more rich, more vivid, and just the zoo life even better. I wish that they will be integrating the small exhibits in a way better way. I'm very confident, as this was being another big item in that survey. I wish that this game is having a phenomenal performance, so we all can build the biggest zoos of our wildest dreams. And now the last wish, and I do know that this is relatively impossible that this is going to happen, and at the same time I know that this is going to be a very controversial thing here, but I truthfully hope the game is going to be PC only at launch. I really would love to see it PC only. And let me quickly explain to why. I know that a lot of console players, specifically you've been subscribed to the channel now maybe because of all the games being on console. The last releases have shown that it doesn't do anything to the wider audience. It seems like that the same audience just plays on a different system, and I understand that having a console and not having a high-end gaming PC is a very normal situation for many people out there. And I do know that having people excluded from a potential game is a very shitty situation. But hear me out. 2026, end of 2026, the current new gen consoles are actually not new gen anymore, not even remotely. Yes, we got a couple pro versions now, but that's about it. There's no new PlayStation, there's no new Xbox. They've been years old, their hardware is old, so this would limit the entire game. We 100% certainly would get another complexity meter problem over here. We would most certainly have a mega difference between the graphic comparison, or let's say the graphic potential, because as we see with Planet Coaster 2, seemingly we don't get the full power that would be possible for a game like that because of consoles. We don't see the full performance and the full kind of guest count that we could see because of console. And I first of all want this game to be the best possible version of itself. I want it the best possible Planet Zoo 2, and in my honest opinion, this is only possible if they focus fully on making a great PC successor. If that is gonna land, it's absolutely fine to release console about a year later. It's absolutely fine to focus maybe on exclusives for console then. All goody, all fine, but please nail the game for one system only. It's not that we are back in 2000s where developing for a console is totally different. Now consoles are pretty much PCs, so yes, there are differences, but it's not mega different. And the UI could finally be separated again. See, hear me out. I think the UI in Planet Coaster 2 is one of the biggest issues to the game itself in its entirety. Jurassic World Evolution 2 is 3 is a bit of a different thing because they have a completely different UI that has been developed for console and PC from the beginning, so they made their experience. It kind of makes you wonder why they didn't use that experience in Planet Coaster 2, but that's a different story. I want to believe that this could work on both systems, but I don't. I absolutely think it's also just going to be a mess again if it's on old systems. So, as I said, my biggest wish is going to be only a PC game at the beginning. See, I have to live with that situation for GTA. GTA always has been a console game at the beginning. I always need to purchase a console for GTA and then sell it again when it released on PC. And it's gonna be happening the same way again, despite me having potentially a PC that is 1,000,000,000 times better in performance than the consoles are. And that's fine because GTA in the first place is a console game. Nowadays, it's used to be different, but you know, that's the thing it is. Now, I hope you don't hate me for that. And also, truthfully, I think it's not going to happen the way I wish. It's definitely going to be released on console and PC. They would spare out so much potential in sales that they would be really weirdly stupid to not release it on all systems, as they already have Planet Zoo on console as well. So yeah, again, for my own kind of sake, I am very sad about the fact that it definitely is going to be releasing for most of the things, but truthfully, I think that it's not going to be hitting as good as it could. Or they do surprise me and nail both systems, which, you know, I would be here sitting applauding them quite a lot. To end this video, I really hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the Planet Zoo history, legacy, and why this game is that important in not only our communities, but also for Frontier themselves. I do hope you are as excited to what Planet Zoo 2 is going to be. And just to take away a little bit of the worry that some people are going to comment nearly in every video, no, this will not mean to, you know, go away from Jurassic World Evolution 3 or Planet Coaster 2. I have talked about that so many times, and I'm going to make a dedicated video about that. I think we are in for a treat. From the end of next year onwards, we will have 3 games being supported for at least a couple of years. At the same time, it's going to be great. It's going to be a wonderful situation, and you're going to be finding all the games on my channel. Of course, there are going to be different focus times, you know, when there's one DLC over the other. But in general, I'm going to continue my series and all that kind of stuff. And if you're in for that, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We are going to cover it all on this channel. I'm going to do deep dives whenever I think it's possible. And also, I'm going to make all the analysis videos and obviously create whatever I want to create to make this appear, shine, do whatever, be great for you all. So thank you, as always, for your support. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and also do comment down below what you think about Planet Zoo 2, and the whole situation. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.